Hello, hello, beautiful people, mi gente bella. Welcome, welcome to another edition of Santana Says, where we talk about everything from roadblocks to relationships, everything in between, and the overall journey of life. I am excited, as always, to bring you another edition of the show, and it's a little bit later than we wanted, y'all. This was scheduled to take place during Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but y'all know us. We gonna have that conversation all year anyway. Yeah. So obviously it's right on time because it's right when we want to be able to have it. So we always want to make sure we do it, but we are super excited to be able to have this growing conversation. It is another one with another guest, which I'm always happy about. And we're definitely going to make sure that we get into this topic, let you know more about things. And I definitely want you to learn more about this wonderful person who works in the world of domestic violence and is here to talk to us more about that. So, beautiful guest, could you tell the people a little bit more about you? Who are you? ¿Quién eres? All those great things.
Yes, indeed. I'm happy to be here first and foremost.
Yeah.
I'm Elena Rosa, and I am the founder of the Mariposa Project.
Hey.
And what that is a small nonprofit, and we provide advocacy and information to survivors of domestic violence. I actually founded this in 2018.
Okay.
And so COVID hit, and then the height of that just kind of put a halt on everything that I was working on. So we're really just getting into the thick of things now and creating our board and just getting some like-minded individuals involved in this whole, awareness piece that I want to bring forth to the community. But I also am a serial business owner. I own some other businesses. I own Urban Roots Artisan Soap Company. So this is one of my products. Shameless plug. No.
Right. But for real though. Zoom in real quick.
So, and then I also own La Rosa Wedding Ceremonies. So I also do quite a few things, out there in the world of, business. But my passion is to work with survivors in domestic violence. And I'm glad I'm here with Melissa to talk about that and collaborate and just bring forth that education piece so we can try to prevent this.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. Absolutely.
I mean, that's key. Prevention is most important. We don't want to get to that point where you're already, facing that in the thick of that situation.
Right.
Let's see if we can put that prevention piece out there, which is 100% important.
Oh, absolutely. And so we appreciate that. Absolutely. That you want to bring that in that, for the work that you are doing. And of course, I did want to touch on, how you balance that with everything else that you do. But starting with Mariposa. So I definitely think, and Mariposa is Spanish for butterfly, for those who don't know. So, spread your wings, y'all. So yeah, love that symbol, and all that. But even that, like, what was the, inspiration behind, naming it Mariposa Project, making it, a nonprofit is what I heard it was, right?
Yes.
And all that. And so like choosing intentionally to do it that way, and also like what was your vision behind it?
Yeah, so for many years, I'll start back how I began in this field. I worked as a shelter advocate, or rather a family advocate at Shelter for the Domestic Violence Center, and I worked there for many years. And that's just where my passion to work with survivors I sprung forth right when I worked in Shelter. Yeah, it was like the catalyst for everything for me. I just, I was involved in so many different cases that just, the thing is, I started my nonprofit because of all the red tape. There's a lot of bureaucracy and things like that. I understand why it's in place.
Of course.
However, I have a little more liberty to do things at my pace and my processes when I have at my own nonprofit. So
okay,
I'm excited about that, and support groups and things like that. But I always make sure I implement that safety piece. That's the most important part.
Of course,
when somebody's going through a domestic violence situation, is that they need that safety piece in place, and I make sure I put that first and foremost in anything that I do.
Absolutely, at the forefront of it, and that is great, because I agree. I definitely think that. That's what is a great benefit of being able to start something, that is ours, and that, we can put our own stamp on, but also, like you said, that you can actually manage it the way you would like to. And so I think that is a great, unique opportunity that presents itself when you make something like a nonprofit. And so being able to do that, or honestly anything, whether it is a business, whether it is, anything in those ways, or any agency that you want to be able to create. But I do think it's great too that, you decided to do it in that way, and that safety was one of the priorities, because as you all will recall, when it does come to domestic violence, I mean, safety definitely needs to be a big part. And you mentioned like you used to work at the like shelters and all of that. So like, what was it like back in the advocacy days? What was that like?
So you know, it was extremely difficult because I was working with families,
Right.
and then originally when I started working at the Domestic Violence Center, which is now called Journey Center for Healing, I started in what was called the Latina Project. So I worked with immigrant women and children, and oftentimes they would be brought here by U.S. citizens just to be, brought over to be abused or, to work, different things, trafficking. There's so many different types of visas as well that are in place here in the United States to help individuals who've been brought against their will even.
Right.
And people might say, well, how were they brought against their will? There's a whole thing. There's a whole ring. You hear about it all the time. There's trafficking and things. There's ways to get through. And they're promised certain things as well.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So, so there's that piece. So I would assist them and help them get visas and, just try to move them through the legal process. Is very difficult. So it's challenging for an individual who's a U.S. citizen,
right?
But it goes to the 10th level when you're someone who's not a U.S. citizen,
right?
So it takes years at times to get through this process. So I would help them go through the process, take them to immigration attorneys,
right?
Walk them through protection orders.
Right.
So there's just so much that's involved in that. But all of the cases really have touched my heart that I worked. Really not the cases, it's the people.
Right.
They really touched my heart throughout the years. And at the end of the day, I said to myself, I want to put forth more, more advocacy out there. How can I do this? I asked myself. And I go, I'm going to have to just pull away and do some things on my own. And now finally, after these long few years, after like literally the world stopped for everyone.
Right.
And actually domestic violence went up. The rate of domestic people were at home. They were stuck with their abusers at home. So
absolutely.
So now there needs that advocacy piece needs to be put in place. Like it's there, but there needs to be more individuals out there that can provide that. That support.
Definitely that part. And I love that you brought up, that unique experience that is faced by immigrants as well, because there are a lot of people that want to come over to our beautiful United States, as complicated as the country as it may be. There are a lot of freedoms here that people want to be able to exercise. And so I love that. But the problem is the allure, though, that a lot of people are brought over here for, because as you mentioned, yes, I agree that there are a lot of, so as common as it may seem to us as advocates and in the world, where we're like, domestic violence makes sense. Like, it makes sense why we should have awareness around it. Right. Everybody should be talking about it. Like, we shouldn't be the only ones bringing up this conversation. Right. There is still a lot of people that are like, no, not for me. Like, I don't get it. And I feel like that's a choice that a person made. And if they came over here and something happens, that's on them. And it's like, not really. First of all, people are coming over here wanting better opportunities. They're not asking for abuse to be part of that.
Right.
They're not. Also, some of them are not being told, because naturally, if you tell someone, like, if you come over here, I'm going to abuse you as soon as you arrive, you know what I'm saying? Give up everything that you got going on over there and all your security, because that's what's about to, that's what you're going to have when you get over here. Of course, they don't say it like that. Of course, they mask it. And they make it seem like it's actually something very enticing. And there's like all these great benefits to being over here. And these people can't wait to be able to do that. And they can't wait to then provide a great pathway for their family members to then come over here. And some of them never get the chance. Right.
They're promised like the moon and stars, and anyone who's trying to look for a better life is going to, gonna think about that. They're going to say, you know what, this is a great idea. Maybe I'll go and I'll be able to get a better job, or this will happen. I can provide for my family and things like that. So, anyone who cares about their family is going to jump on that opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
But with that, you have to be very careful. Like, and this is definitely a warning for people. Just try to research, things before you involve yourself with certain individuals, because they'll promise you everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're really coming here to be abused.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And this is not always the case, but we know that it happens. It's prevalent right now.
Right.
And I just really want to hone in on the trafficking piece.
Absolutely.
It's rampant right now in this country, all over the world, not just here. But people are being promised things. They're being taken against their will. This is just like the craziest thing in this day and age right now that's happening. And we really just need to put that awareness out there too, on top of it, because all of these intersect. domestic violence, trafficking, just all of this stuff intersects. And I definitely want to bring awareness to that. Children are being trafficked. It's just awful. And we need to build that awareness as well.
Absolutely, because we are coming to y'all, as we mentioned, from Cleveland. And, we mentioned, one of the pillar organizations that is here, like Journey. We have Cleveland Rape Crisis Center. Those are one of the main. But here in Cleveland, we're also facing a crisis. And so you just brought up kids. And so, like, I believe it was like 1,000, like there's been at least 1,000 over time. There was a few hundred just alone in the last few months, but it's just been over time. That's way too many. Like, first of all, like, as parents, we ain't trying to see any kids go missing. Like, if my child is missing for an hour, best believe, or a minute, and I don't know where they are, like, all hell breaks loose. I'm gonna like go. I mean, I would never want to even have to face that feeling. And there are some families where it's worse than that. Their children are no longer with them. And yes, unfortunately, some of them are in lives like these ones where they most likely are being trafficked, and they don't even know about it. But like for other ones too, they're facing all different types of things. And so I don't think we are having enough conversations around that. And I do appreciate, those, I actually, fellow podcast, the Pull-Up Experience, they actually just shared a recent post on it, on the children that are missing. I mean, because I would just love for all of us to kind of use our platforms to bring, but it's interesting because I've only seen it if certain individuals have shared it or certain organizations, but overall there isn't a lot of messaging on it, and it is happening.
Yeah. The numbers are just like, even one person missing to me is astronomical.
Yep.
So imagine these are multiple children that are missing right now. So we need to know what's going on, what's happening.
Yeah.
Where's the support?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if you see something, I always say the same thing. If you see something, say something. If something seems off to you and it doesn't seem right, I mean, you could be saving a life.
Yeah.
Or you could be helping someone avoid a situation that's extremely traumatic.
Right.
That can be happening to them in their lives. You need to say something. It's important. Don't be afraid to say something. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Apologize and try to move on. But I'd rather be wrong.
Yes.
Than have a child go missing and I never said anything.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing too. So if we wanted to speak to consequences, here's the thing. If you happen to report something in general, so like whether it's in this case, whether you suspect abuse in a situation or anything like that, we definitely want you to know that the consequences for that are not severe.
Right.
Nobody's gonna chastise you. Your face is not gonna end up on some poster look at the person who made a mistake. No. Like nobody does that, but they are grateful, like you mentioned, for at least providing those connecting dots. Today even, I was at school and there was a compromising situation that happened with a student. And I know that, and it was, unfortunately, the student had taken something that they shouldn't have taken. And so unfortunately, some things happened there. And of course, I had that difficult decision of, maybe it's just something normal, maybe it'll pass, and all that. But again, and not only as an educator, not only as a mental health professional, but also, again, as a parent, I was like, I'd rather somebody say something. I would hate to make that phone call to that parent later that, oh, well, why didn't anybody call? Why didn't anybody report or say something about it? Well, we didn't know. And we weren't sure if you wanted us to. And we wanted to wait to make sure if we were right about it. No, we don't have time to do that. I'd rather you act, and at least try to make that connection versus doing that. But knowing that the consequence for that is not severe. And please keep in mind that you can stay anonymous. When you make these reports, you ain't got to give your whole.
No, you can. You don't have to give you can be completely anonymous.
Right.
And you definitely want to also make sure that you have basis as well.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Let's not just be you want to make sure you do have basis.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
Make sure you at least get the facts of the situation, and that'll help you make an educated decision rather, and be able to walk through that process with the appropriate channels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you got the facts down, you're able to give them, the information, and they're able to act appropriately.
Oh yeah. And definitely that.
So, but definitely, if you see something and it's off, just say something about it,
Right.
I mean, I'd rather just say something than the effects of you not saying something could be detrimental to someone's life.
Absolutely.
And especially in these, like when we're on the spectrum of talking about domestic violence.
Right.
And how many times do we see people, like it can be male, female, whatever you identify as, someone that may cower down and just always be fearful, and just ask them a question like, are you okay?
Right.
Like, how can I support you?
Absolutely.
And it's just those words, like, how can I support you, is super deep. Sounds simple, but it's super deep because you're allowing that person, you're inviting them, you're giving them the space to say what they need. Oh, yeah. Not what you feel like you want to give them. Because they may not need all that. No, or they may not be open to it. Nope. Just say, how can I support you? How can I help you move through this situation? Right. Or move out of this situation? Right. You know, it's so important to just ask people and be mindful. Oh, yeah. You know, right now I also work as, for Kendrick Harbor Behavioral Health as a case manager. And, you know, I talk to my clients every day. And I just tell them, you know, let's practice mindfulness. That's one of the skills that I feel like is, you know, much needed in this world. More people need to work on practicing mindfulness and being in that moment because we're always busy. Oh, yeah. You know, I got to go here. I got to go there. I got to do that. I got to do this. But you're missing out on important things that are happening right in front of your face because you're not practicing mindfulness. Right. It's just that simple thing, like be in that moment of what you're doing. Yep. Absolutely. And yeah, because being present is everything. And it's definitely a skill. You can't just say, I can be present. Right. Like you actually have to. You got to be there. You can't just be. Right. We like to say it though. We'll be like, yeah, I do that. I do that very well. You know, like, exactly. And even, you know, all of us, like we're busy. Like we were just talking about earlier. We're moms. It's been a week, y'all. We work. It's been a week. It's been a quieter week. You know? Right. And we're just getting here and we're tired. We're just human. You know what I mean? But it's this being in that moment, like practicing that mindfulness piece and just really being in our surrounding, just being present and paying attention and observant in our surroundings. Absolutely. That can help. That can save a life. It can. And I also think it's interesting too, like what we said earlier is that, you know, we also think, you know, I would never be in that situation, or I don't know how that could have ever happened. I also think it's interesting too when we, like even going back to the immigration situation, like, well, I probably would have seen the red flags a mile away and all that. Here's the thing. If we didn't believe in lies, then why we got shows like Catfish, y'all? I know, that's right. Come on now. That's right. And like why we got scammers on Snapchat or like things like that. They're using social media and like how many times have we been allured or like, you know, heard different scams, and like sometimes we don't always, but also especially it also depends where we're at in our life too, because, you know, mentality wise, we sometimes can be in very vulnerable places depending on where we are mentally. And so that's another reason why we're saying the mindfulness piece is important so that you're not taken advantage of. Right. But also like depending age-wise too. So like sometimes, yes, it is young people that tend to get influenced into these things more than others as well, but it happens to adults. So that's the other thing. Like it happens across the board, but especially too, yes, with children, that's the point. Like they are easy to manipulate. And so that is why we're saying it's so important to make sure that they're not duped into these kind of things. Teen dating violence is at an all-time high.
Absolutely.
These are individuals, and you work as an educator, and you probably see even, you can even see younger children, you know, because they're emulating a lot of times what they see in their household. You know, this is a behavior that's learned. Yep. You know, so they see this in the household. They're emulating that. You know, they think that, oh, I got a boyfriend and you're 8 years old. Right. Like, you know, and that's just something they see in their household. So they're perpetuating that. Yeah. And so that's why it's important to know what the cycle of violence is. You know, when you're dating someone, you know, you have coercion and threats. They'll try to use their children against you. Right. You know, you'll have that honeymoon phase as well where they may be violent with you. And they go, oh, it'll be a period of time where it'll be calm. Everything will be great. And boom, next thing you know, the abuse is starting again. Yeah. You know?
Or they'll soften it up with a nice little gift or something. Nice, you know, I didn't mean it.
It's that honeymoon stage. Yeah, absolutely. Or they'll take you out to eat and you're like, they tell you that everything is great, build your castles in the sky. And the next thing you know, you're in that same abusive situation with that individual again. Yeah. So it's important to be mindful of those red flags. Like this person will try to threaten you. This person will most certainly try to isolate you. They want to take you away from your support system. The people that are closest to you, they want to pull you out of that and isolate you. They want to, you know, financial abuse is also a part of that. Absolutely. You know, take your money away, take your cards away, or not let you work. Right. I've had clients that didn't work for like 30 years and they were in these abusive situations. They didn't even know how to drive. Yeah. You know, they were locked up in bedrooms for years and years. They couldn't shower. That's the number one thing I've heard is their partner wouldn't allow them to shower.
Yeah. Lord. Basic, and that's like a basic human need. You need it. We can't say I just want a shower. Yeah, no, that's a need.
Like, I had a client one time, I recall, her hair was super matted and she hadn't showered in a really long time. And she was fearful to get in the shower. We had to, we had to really say it's going to be okay and really just give her some healthy coping skills and let her know that she was supported just to go in the shower because she was so afraid that when she tried to do just basic hygiene, he would attack her physically.
Wow.
And torture her. So it's just, you know, those things that we oftentimes take for granted, like jumping in the shower, you're okay.
Yep.
There's that fear piece for individuals like that.
Yep.
That's attached to it. And to this day, I'm fairly sure that she probably still has that PTSD, you know, those symptoms from experiencing that abuse, for not even being able to go brush her teeth.
Absolutely.
You know, just horrified, like I can't do it. In the back of her mind, something bad's going to happen to me if I just do this basic thing for myself.
Which is, and of course it should never be that way, but that is a psychological, you know, that's conditioning, you know, and so unfortunately that has happened, those kind of experiments has happened. Even we've seen it proven with like even mice, like they would literally put them in different situations, they would like shock them and show like those reactions, and then, you know, like sometimes they would take that stimulus away from them, but they would still have that fear behind it, even without the shock still being there, they could still react. We as humans do that. We absolutely, and the thing is, there's nothing wrong with us doing that. It makes sense that if a certain situation happens, we're going to learn to either avoid it, you know what I mean, or figure out a way to manage it and get through it. And so I've also seen a lot of people who have been in these lives, you know, these situations, beat themselves up for the very thing that they did to survive the situation. And so they're like, well, yeah, it definitely was my fault though, because I mean, I would give in half the time, and like I would, you know, like set myself up in that situation. Okay, but if you knew that not giving in was going to make that situation worse, why are you beating yourself up for that? Like, we totally get that that was the only way you could actually get through that. And that is why you're now here able to even talk about this situation. But I think too, what you reminded me was when you said like, if it feels off, you know, say something, you know what I mean? If it feels off, it might be off, you know what I mean? Or you know, and you know, as a witness, but also as a person in a relationship. So, right, like we're describing some like severe situations, which unfortunately happen all the time.
Yes.
So the ones we're talking about, you're like, what? The shower? Like, no, we're talking about some real situations that happen, unfortunately, way too often. And like you said, to every gender. We're not talking about just women.
Right.
We are not talking about just men. We talking about non-binary. We're talking about the spectrum in general. We're talking about human beings are being abused.
Yes.
You know, and we're talking that about people that are not able to live their lives freely because of another person telling them. And like you said, they will tell them to stop working. Like, no, I'm going to do everything here, you know, my way goes and all that.
Right. That's it.
And sometimes it is hard to identify those ways in a relationship. You could be in a relationship right now where it feels off, right? But you're like,
obsession is one of them.
I mean, yes, exactly. But you know, but that's the thing, right? Because back in the day, how many times we heard, and not even back in the day, like even now, like some are like, but if he don't blow my phone up, he don't really care about me. You know what I mean? Or like, he ain't feeling me if he don't like hit me up all the time. No, boo-boo.
It's not, no.
We're here to set the record straight.
Yeah, and I want to set the record straight about relationships, okay? A relationship is two individuals coming together.
Absolutely.
Okay. Two individuals. So that means you were an individual. You're stillborn. You're just bringing forth, you know, whatever, you know, common interests you have into this, and, you know, love and whatever you base your foundation of your relationship on.
Right.
But it's two individuals coming together, not one individual taking over that whole individual's life and being obsessive with that person. Right. Once you see someone becoming extremely obsessive, be careful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Be very careful, because that is a huge red flag.
Absolutely.
There's one thing to be worried about someone. Right. A rational worry. Yep. And then there's irrational. Yep. Where someone's calling you 100 times a day. You're at your mama's house. You're trying to eat a flan, and he's calling you 100 times. Yeah, literally. And he knows where you are already. Yep. But you're cheating. You're doing this. You're doing that. If I can't have you, nobody can. Right. That's that mentality as well. Yeah, you know? Absolutely. So you have to be very careful and mindful of, you know, those red flags. If it feels off, it's usually is. It is off, know? Exactly. And we don't want you to ignore your intuition. Right. And so, like, I'm sure you can, you know, something has probably told you that. There may have been some people that, if you're fortunate enough, that can warn you about that. But that is why we said the isolation piece is so important. Usually abusers gonna take you away from everybody because they don't need nobody tipping you off. Right. I need you to stay right here with me, you know, and stay in this situation. So if everybody over there giving you like the heads up, then that's not gonna help me. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off. But I'm gonna make it seem like it's you though. Right. Like, oh no, you don't need those friends because you're supposed to be here with me. And you know, if you really love me, this is what you'll do for me. And so it's like they absolutely do these, you know, present these messages, absolutely. And I also think it's interesting, the submission piece. So I've definitely heard people debate whether or not you should
submit to your partner. And so like, if they are really your partner, you know, you should be loyal to them. You know, they should come first and all those things. First of all, with us, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna tell you right now, you come in second, you know, anybody that dates me, because I already got kids. So number one, you already gotta keep that in mind. But also I do have other things that I contribute to and that I, you know, that give me, you know what I'm saying, all the passion in the world. Yes. And then also give me joy, you know what I mean? And give me purpose. So like, I'm not giving those up and I shouldn't have to. But that's the thing too. I do think that, yeah, should we be loyal in relationships? Absolutely. Should we be faithful to that person? Sure. If you're a monogamous person, you know what I mean? And you're in a monogamous relationship and y'all have made that agreement, then by far. But if it is to the point where that person is your only, like you said, main only priority, and you're not able to do other things outside of that, that is the fine line we're talking about crossing.
It's so dangerous. And, you know, in a relationship, you want to have that compromise piece. But
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't have to compromise the core and essence of yourself for anyone.
Not at
You
all.
know? They should be able to see, you know, you should be able to sit down and talk and communicate with each other.
Right.
Healthy communication involves sitting down and talking.
Right.
And having that dialogue without yelling and insulting each other.
Yes.
You know, granted, everyone has arguments and things. That is natural.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between a healthy argument or a discussion, and then there's the other spectrum, the other end of it, where someone's calling you out your name, a B word constantly and constantly demeaning you.
Right.
And just trying to find faults in you.
Oh, yeah.
In your character. Like that's just, you don't need to deal with that. You know?
And you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And I love too that you mentioned like, but the learnedness of it though, because I will say that there are a lot of, speaking of youth, who will say that it's hard to differentiate. I was like, well, I thought that's how everybody fights though. Or like, or I thought that's how everybody communicates. Yeah. Like they're just fighting, they're just discussing, or they're just arguing. Now when it's all that, y'all. No, you don't have to yell that way, like you said, to get your point across. No, you don't have to throw things at me to also get your point across. And no, you don't have to use objects either. You know, so like slamming doors in the house, or like not allowing the person to leave, like you mentioned, or like literally barricading them, or like doing things like that. It should never feel like that. You should never feel so stifled, so unsafe, and so insecure in any situation. You should definitely be able to freely move.
Right.
And so we're definitely talking about that, but it does go back. And so unfortunately, I think a lot of us have been raised around individuals who also, you know, didn't know emotion regulation. And so now we're trying to put those pieces together. But honestly, we talk about it in a very colloquial way. So like we will say like jokingly, like, oh, but yeah, girl, no, but that's just that love. Like at least he loves you like that. Like that's always like that. Or if he,
it's toxic. It's you know, really just promoting the toxic.
Yeah.
And says, oh, that's just how he talks, and that's just how she is, and that should it's not healthy. Yeah, it's not healthy, because later on you pay for it one way or another, whether it's to the detriment of your mental health or your physical well-being. You know, sitting there and communicating with someone in a healthy way, it'll blow your mind. It really will. Yeah. Because you'll know the difference. You'll know the difference immediately when you meet someone who knows how to communicate opposed to someone who doesn't. And actually, it might feel strange if your whole life you've lived in chaos.
Absolutely.
You might think it's odd.
Right. And you know what else is? You might reject it at first. Here's the thing. Yeah, you might push it away. And here's my thing too. Like, I think it's interesting, the conversations about peace being boring. And I'm like, that's kind of sad. That's like, sad. Wait, so we don't even want peaceful though? Like, we need it to be able to, like, I mean, he's cool, but, well, in my case, so I'm only speaking, you know, as a woman, like speaking about others, but of course we can use any pronoun. But like, that person is boring because they don't really keep it spicy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't like, they fine and everything, but I need it to be a little bit mystery. Like, I need them to be a little bit adventurous. Okay, no, bro. Like, we get, at least for me, we getting older out here. So I want me a little bit of predictability. We good. Like, I would like, we don't need that many adventures. Like, if the adventure is booking a flight, you know what I'm saying?
I'll take it.
Sign me up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but if the adventure is I can't even predict how you gonna react today, I'm okay.
I'm okay on that.
I'm okay on that.
It's just I need that peace, or you know what I mean? That should be something that's in the core of who you are. Absolutely. Wanting that peace. But it was like you were saying, that learned behavior is hard to rid yourself of and remove from your life when that's all you've known. You know? Oh yeah. So we got to take the steps. There are groups out there. There's support groups online, and there's therapy. The therapy piece is so important in life. Yeah. Just because you go to therapy doesn't mean something's wrong with you. People automatically have that stigma, like there's a mental illness, there's behavioral, all this stuff. No, just go. Sometimes you need to talk to someone. Right. Who is going to be objective. Yeah, absolutely. You know, you need to talk to someone who's not going to have a biased opinion of you. Right. You know, it's important to have that in your life. And whether you talk to your friends or not, maybe that's your therapy, talking to your friends, but you need to have someone to talk to.
Yeah,
Someone to
definitely.
divulge your, decompress and divulge your secrets to if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we take our cars to get tune-ups.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, sometimes we also go when it's an emergency, right? Like when the car falls apart, all of a sudden we like, well, yep, we need help now. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like we don't need it to always be just for that. But again, also just for the routine of it, just for the practice of it.
Yeah.
But also as people that are in this field, now I will say, I also know that not all therapists are great therapists. So like we get that too. And I mean, and you know who might be a good fit for you. And I can say that I've shopped around.
Yeah.
So like, first of all, I know that I don't want to be one of those, therapists or, advocates helping others that doesn't get help herself. I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be fraudulent like that. Telling y'all, y'all should do that. But I ain't doing it.
Right.
Like, I'm not trying to talk to nobody. Like, not do that well. But also that I'm not willing to make sure it's somebody that I feel comfortable with too. Because that is important to me. Like, I can't just do that with just anyone. And I'm not going to just divulge to just anyone, or be able to grow with anyone either. Because that's always what I'm looking for too. The right person that will properly challenge you. And that's what we mean, right? Is that sometimes in our friendship groups that can happen, right? If you surround yourself with a group like that. But too often, if those are the only people you're getting advice from and all they do is just support everything that you say, then boo-boo. You know what I'm saying? How you gonna know when you're wrong?
Accountability. You need somebody that's going to hold you accountable as well. Like, and if you get a really good therapist, they will hold you accountable.
Yeah, they'll let you know.
They'll let you know right off the bat, like, this is something that you need to work on.
Yep.
Or, how can I teach you some healthy coping mechanisms? Because what you've been doing to cope is unhealthy.
Yeah, that's all.
Someone who just calls you out on it, because that's the only way you're going to grow and evolve and not stay stagnant in maybe a situation that's super harmful for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it doesn't necessarily have to be, in terms of relationship. It
Right.
could be other things. It could be work as well. It could be anything. You could be keeping yourself in a place that's hurting you. And just talking through with somebody, that talk therapy is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Just having that thought partner and having somebody that can help you to help you out with all that. And I appreciate the client stories that you've shared because, again, to bring it on home, because as we're mentioning, this can happen in many different ways. So it can be the manipulative emotional relationship, right? That some people find themselves in. Absolutely the physical one that we can see and sometimes cannot, but it is in other ways also. And so we want to make sure that it's clear that when we say domestic violence, that's a big thing that we're talking about. That's not like an easy to dissect topic, actually. And we also, I'm sure that you've heard this, is that there's a lot of people that will say, people ended up in that situation because of choices, but also I don't get why people stay in that situation.
Yeah, that was the
So
piece.
like,
That was the piece that I wanted to talk about. I was waiting.
we are.
Yeah.
That's
So psychological chains. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how when you always get someone that'll say, she should have left, he should have left her, or they should have left. That's a person who says that means that they don't understand what psychological chains are.
Right.
And your chance of actually being, murdered, which is just the only other word to use, is it goes up exponentially when you try to leave someone like that.
Absolutely.
That has been physically harming you for so long.
Yeah.
It's just a dangerous situation. So you have to know that when that person finally decides to take that leap and leave, they've probably toiled on this for so long and been worried and just, you don't know what they're going through, And then that might be the person that that's been their whole world this whole time because they've been isolated.
Oh, yeah.
So they probably don't even have a support system. They don't even know if that exists.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know? So I always tell people, try to think about those psychological chains of why that person's there. They go, oh, she keeps going back to him. Or, and it's like, you just really got to think about that person's mental health and why they're returned. Just dissect it a little,
Yeah. Yeah, and please consider that there could be a lot more complicated reasons. And if it don't make sense, it doesn't need to. Like, not to you. Because I can definitely say firsthand, obviously, y'all know me. I know firsthand about it. And so obviously I can tell you that, of course I look back on myself now and I would probably be like, I don't know how I ended up in that situation. Like, why would I ever, I would never want to. But when I was in it, yes, absolutely. And because of where I was, I just was in a place where I was open, I was very vulnerable. And so I was open to that. And it was hard to see it, being in it. And I want to shout out too that, like we just said, you just mentioned that one of the biggest risks is that a person can lose their life. at the hands of someone else. And even if they don't lose their life, the threat is real. They will use that threat against them or against their children or against people they know. Because here's the other thing. It's for kidless people too. They'll do it. They'll say, well, like, oh, your family member, I will hurt them and I will do all these things. Yes, they will do it. And that's why I appreciate what you said also about the intersection. People do that with sexual assault too, right? Like, no, you're not going to tell anybody what happened between us because one, I know you don't want nobody knowing about that, or they'll use the fact that they might harm someone. And the thing is, of course, you know, it was interesting you used the word murder because a recent development, like, so we did have Amanda, the stylist. I mentioned her on a recent, you know, episode. Her name is Amanda Williams, so she's known on Instagram as Amanda, the stylist. But, you know, she was recently murdered. And we were saying that. We named it before it got named by our city and all of those things. But unfortunately, the person that did this was able to get away. Y'all, okay, and now the messages came out. Like I swear, it was maybe like yesterday, where they where they finally said they are now bringing charges of murder. But here's the thing, and I really appreciate it actually that I saw a lot of comments. I don't always go for the comments, y'all, because y'all be lethal. You know, people can be very too much, and you can't get sucked up in that. But I was appreciative of seeing that a lot of people were actually saying, "I wish they would have named it murder first." You know, instead of us having to wait. And that's what we're saying. Like, I wish people would just believe first. It ain't gonna cost y'all, man. Please. You know, like, we're just telling you, it just would be so much better because that's often what happens. People get the courage. They come up to somebody and they say it. And they're like, are you for real though? Like, you know, why you in that? You know what I mean? Or like, what did you do then? Or like,
they re-victimize you.
Yes, and make you feel crap. I'm like, dang.
I should have never said nothing in the first place.
Well, forget it now.
Yeah, forget it now. You made me feel awful and horrendous in a moment where or worse than that. And you re-victimized me and re-traumatized me in that moment just by telling me that you're not going to support me. You don't believe me.
Right.
I should have never said anything anyway.
Absolutely.
And that is why so many people stay silent when they shouldn't have to.
No.
When others should be out there providing support. And maybe you don't know much about this, you know, maybe you don't know much about abuse or domestic violence.
Right.
It doesn't take nothing. You can Google how to get somewhere to eat. You can Google the cycle of violence. Yeah. You can Google what are the signs, you know, what you can Google where you can receive help and advocacy. Right. Because you can Google all that stuff online. So when people tell me they don't know and they're not aware, there's so many videos out there on YouTube and things like that. Just that education piece, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Education is just
And I also think it's interesting because I'm pretty sure we ain't living in no bubbles.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
we're
like,
not. You see
know,
people.
yeah, exactly.
TV,
You gotta, if you ain't really exposed to violence, you gotta know somebody that's at least been in that situation that you can most likely help. And you know, another argument that I'll always hear, so like we mentioned earlier about children. So there are like many children, unfortunately, that are going, you know, that have gone missing in our city, in our world, but definitely we just notice it locally as well. So like, you know, this may be happening in your areas also, but like that definitely does unfortunately happen. But I'll also hear the argument of like, well, not all those kids are probably like missing kids. Though some of those gotta be runaway kids because you know, some of them be leaving their houses and all of that. I'm sure, is that an argument you've also heard?
I've heard it so much. I even have my own experience since I was a teen runaway. So, you know, but no one asks why as well. Like even if that kid ran away, that child ran away, you don't know why. Yeah. Like I faced a lot of turmoil in my childhood. So I was a teen runaway, you know, and I ran away from my home a lot. So I was facing a lot of things and challenges in my home. And I felt at peace when I wasn't there, you know? Yeah. And that's tough because that's what you look forward to being your sanctuary. And when it isn't, right, you know, you're searching for that. Yeah. And so a lot of these kids, you know, they may be leaving home for that, or they may be being trafficked and we don't know. You know? Exactly. We got to dig deeper. We got to really dig deeper. Yeah. Even if just because they ran away from home doesn't mean they ran away from home. You don't throw them away. Right. Either way. Ask why. Exactly. Why? Why is this child leaving their home multiple times? Yeah. My question isn't even that. My question is why you ain't doing nothing about it. Yeah. I know. I think sometimes we're asking the wrong questions. Wrong questions. We are. And even if a child, like you said, if they leave, that doesn't mean they deserve abuse. You know, they were already trying to escape the abuse. And now we're going to say, oh, that's the reason why they should get more of it? What is that? No, they obviously, because here's the thing, who willingly leaves a home? If your home is a good one, you know, and you getting all your needs taken care of, who would willingly leave that?
Like, you know what I mean? Our pets don't do that. You know what I mean? So like, and even pets that run away, some of them will do it. Those are probably in situations, they telling you a lot too. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't normally do that, you know what I mean? Unless they're, you know, seeking something else, you know, or anything on the other side. So yes, we need to be asking those questions. And you know what else has been really hard for me as somebody that also worked in, you know, has obviously worked in this field, but also been a survivor myself, is that seeing like the scrutiny that survivors also have to face. You mentioned it a little bit too, when how harder it looks for immigrants, because I can imagine, you know what I mean? You over here, and then some of them might not even been documented, obviously, and so they're scared of that, and then they're having to face all this and admit that they've been in this compromising situation and seek help from people that they're afraid to talk to because you might report me or something. Like, goodness gracious, like they should be able to just go there and, you know, there should be more sanctuary cities where people aren't facing deportation for simply wanting help. And it helps us. I would love to know that somebody's reporting an abusive person. Let me know so I can get that person off the street, you know, so that some consequence can be, but no, now let me in turn punish you for coming forward because you ain't got papers. Lord.
Because you ain't got, and so that, and then they just, that keeps that person in that awful, horrendous situation. Is they're afraid.
Yes.
They're so afraid of being sent back, or maybe being separated from, let's say they have children, being separated from their children. Like there's all these things, you know, there's all of these things, these factors that come into play when someone is brought here. Oh yeah. With a promise of something, or maybe, you know, other reasons. Either way, they didn't come here to be abused.
No, they didn't. There's never anything that they asked for. And the scrutiny also happens with people that are even full-blown citizens. So the other one that we're talking about too is that, especially when it comes to domestic violence, that one is any of these intimate partner crimes are hard ones to prove. And so we also like cannot, you know, minimize at all, like how hard it can be, like when a person does come forward and like the questions that they do get asked and how like worse they can sometimes feel, even by the criminal justice system, by other people, like we just mentioned previously. But you even like talked about like protection orders, which some people refer to as restraining orders, but the correct term is protection, because it's actually, you're seeking an order of protection against a person. You know, and another one that I always love to clarify too is like not choking, but it's actually, you know, the strangulation that occurs. And so like, using that, even the terminology is hard. Like, unless you've been in it, it's kind of, you know, you're going to hear other terms that are used and all of those things. But there's a whole nother world, you know, to that we want to make sure that we clarify and clear up. But that is what makes things even harder for others. So that's why it's like, we don't need to make it harder for people. We don't.
And I'll tell you what, I remember when I first started working at Domestic Violence Center and I became certified to provide assessments for lethality assessments. I'm sorry. Risk assessments. And so basically we ask all of these questions, and they're very deep questions. And they're hard to answer. So you almost feel like, you know, it's almost like you don't want to re-victimize the person by mentioning all these things, but you're asking about their past. You're asking if this individual used a firearm against them. Or you're asking if you have children with this individual. You're asking if this individual ever assaulted you sexually. So these are hard things to think about. You know? And I just remember going through them, and I'm like, wow, I have to ask, you know, these hard questions. And, you know, I've had a lot of clients over the years break down during that. You know, just because, you know, during some of these evaluations and intake portions of even going into some of these facilities that we have to perform, it's just difficult for the person. I don't want to call them a client, for the person, for the individual, to have to answer these questions. It's going back in time. It triggers you. Those are triggers, 100% triggers.
Absolutely.
So it's just being, you know, sensitive to how you ask those questions as well. Over time, I realized, you know, I got to ask this question, but how can I phrase this question to where it's not really, you know, going to be so hardcore on that, you know? And sometimes you just have to simply ask it because there's no other way around it. But just being mindful of how you ask those questions as well is helpful.
Treating it delicately.
Delicately. Yes, absolutely.
Because it is rough, and and none of this is easy. And there are, unfortunately, a lot of weapons that are used. And so, like, I know we have already mentioned, like, you know, shooting, unfortunately, is one. So, like, you know, sometimes firearms can happen. Sometimes people will use their cars, literally, to like run people over or like off the road.
There was that doctor who ran over her husband. I think that was in Texas. With the car. and murdered him. So it's just, and it, like I said, it can go across.
Yep.
Domestic violence goes across race, socioeconomic status,
Absolutely.
religion. Anywhere in the world this can happen, or
Right.
You can be living in a high-end neighborhood, or you
Right.
can live somewhere else, and it doesn't matter. It can happen to anyone.
That is true. And I feel like that's what we sometimes forget, because we act like it's only centralized to certain populations
Right.
or to certain individuals. And it's like, absolutely not. But it just looks different.
Right.
So
It
the
looks
person,
different.
oh yeah. And if it does happen in an affluent, area, or like with an affluent couple, the only thing that changes is just what they use. Like the tools of manipulation may change, so they can threaten them with that, and people have lost jobs, like we've mentioned too, because they will, pester them there and like, keep them. So like either they tell them to give up the job, or they set it up to where they can't even have one because you
Right.
said he like harassing the person, or but they use that as a tool against them as well. And I know also others have used, like even in their houses. So like their houses do become prisons, the way that they set themselves up. But I know that other individuals have done acts, like that, but also in front of their family members. And so that's what we, some people don't even mind like having that audience and being able to do these, committing these horrific acts.
Very bold. And, if someone is that bold to do that in front of your family member or anyone that you're close to, or even the general public,
Right.
that is a very dangerous individual.
Right.
It's just as dangerous as a person behind closed doors, but someone that bold, I would, you definitely need to be very careful, and that's the type of situation.
Absolutely.
And, if you're in that type of situation, there's 391 HELP, which is the local 24-hour helpline.
Oh yes.
And they also have a text line as well.
Right.
So thank God for technology, it's different now. And they always ask you if you're safe.
Yep.
Before they even get into any conversations.
Right.
And then there's also the national hotline for domestic violence, which you can also look that up online. But 391 HELP is the local number here in Cleveland, 216-391-HELP. But I just wanted to throw the number out there for you, because that is so important, that there are people out there that are going to help you. And these are individuals that are well-versed on these type of dangerous situations.
Oh, yeah.
Because I find it to be very dangerous. I don't like to just, candy coat it, because there is no candy coating domestic violence.
No. Exactly. And then the thing is too, and that's the other thing, right? So I'm glad you provided the resource, because with everything that we mentioned, it is very heavy. Because I know some advocates now who are still talking about like, who've lived to tell the story, who either got shot, who might have had like gasoline poured on them, like who've had all these different things happen, where it's like, it's incredible stories that they're even hearing, testimonies that they have. But we will, even with all of that being said, we know that presents a lot of obstacles either way, right? That we're saying, but we're absolutely still saying that, still feel encouraged though. Like, so as a result, it's still worse though to be in that situation. It's never better, never better to stay. And you will never hear that message from us. And so we're just saying that, but if you do it, we do understand that it's hard.
Oh yeah.
It's a hard process. Absolutely. And so please know that there are people who can help you with that. But safety planning, yes. What is a safety plan?
Yeah, safety planning is basically you're creating something that I don't always suggest it to be written. Right. When I worked in shelter, we would write it down, but we would keep it for ourselves. We would never give it to the client.
Yep.
We would keep it for ourselves, just so we can kind of remind the client, okay, this is your safety plan. If you return, like whose house can you go to?
Yep.
Where are your important documents?
Yep.
These are things that you need to know in order, if you need to pick up and go, that you have a hidden bag somewhere if you need to. Or if not, if you don't have any of those resources, that just find a way out in the way of contacting a trusted person that you know.
Oh, absolutely.
That's probably your best bet. And a lot of people are isolated, so that's also difficult.
Right.
And they have to try to get a cell phone. Maybe they're not allowed to get a hold of the cell phone, But
Right.
the safety planning piece, even if you're not aware and you're in that situation of what that is,
Right.
what that means is you're devising a plan to escape this individual that has been abusing you.
Right.
So in your mind, that looks like, where are my important documents if you have children?
Yep.
Do you have money anywhere? Do you have access to money?
Yep.
Do you have access to a cell phone? And if you don't have access to any of that, do you have access to a person that that is trusted, that you can speak to help you get out of that situation?
Yep.
There's just different, safety planning looks different for everybody, but those are some of the tools. Like, you can pick up items. If you can't pick up items, or if you're in a dangerous situation, don't worry about any of that stuff. Those are material things. You can get that back. Your life, you can't get back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you leave all that stuff and you go if you got to go. If there's an open window and a crack and you have the courage in that moment, jump out of that thing.
Yeah.
Jump right out.
And you could because you could always start over.
You can always start
But
over.
you can't get your life back.
Yeah.
You definitely can't do that. And so we agree. And the thing is, now for those who are privileged enough to be able to put steps in motion, right? Like before they do leave, that's great. And so that, and those are the ones that we're saying. But again, and that privilege can come in the form of these resources, right? We're talking to people setting up that plan. And so I love that you said not always writing it down, because here's the thing. An abusive person, can you imagine if they found the plan, y'all? And now they know everybody that you plan to contact, all the steps you plan to take. And more importantly, they know that you plan to leave. So you done made it known to them. You know they're going to do everything in their power to stop you, you know, and to like get in the way of that or put harm into this or to the people that's on that paper. So it's like definitely making sure that that's not there, but knowing that, yeah, that resource exists, and that's just a great step to take in that part. There's also programs that help to keep your address anonymous. So were you to move, it doesn't have to be public information. Because right now, unfortunately, I don't know if we realize a lot of our addresses are very public, y'all. Like there are ways people can look them up.
Everything is online these days. And there are ways where you can remove that information. In case you're in that situation and you leave.
Absolutely.
And you're worried that this individual is going to find out, you know, where you're currently living.
Yep.
You know, there are things in place where advocates like that are well versed on information on the internet, they can help you remove it. Yep. You know, so it's or even I think prevent it from even going online somehow.
Right. Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's so much technology these days, but a lot of the advocates out there, they're well versed on how to do this. You know, they've been doing this for a long time, and you know, their main goal is to keep you safe and keep all of your information confidential, so this individual can't find you.
No,
you know?
not at all.
And the shelters are all confidential, so all domestic violence shelters are confidential. The locations, so. You know,
and that's always a great option too, just to know that they exist. Because like, so worst case scenario, there is a place. I mean, of course it might not, you know, feel like, oh, the most ideal or, you know, whatever. It's better than the street. You know, it's better than going back to, again, a dangerous place, you know, that you can't be. Because yes, ideally we would love for you. And it's just a great step as you do get that home that you want, that is safe, that is better, and that is more secure. But as a step to lead up to that, absolutely. This is definitely an option that is available to you, and that nobody's going to question, you know, whether or not you want it. They're just going to find a way for you to get it. So we just want you to know that it exists so that you can even take advantage of it. Right. So definitely.
And they assist, like if you know, if you're thinking about leaving the home and going and entering into shelter, you have individuals there who are counselors and advocates. They can link you to the appropriate services in the community that are specific to your needs. Right. They help assist with locating housing.
Oh, yeah.
They can actually locate different programs for you that'll even help with financial assistance to locate this housing if you got to start from square one. Yeah. Don't be afraid. Like, I don't have nothing. You know, you may think in your head, I don't have nothing. How am I going to start? He has all my credit cards. He has all the money. He's the one who's he or she is the individual that is the main provider in the household. Right. So what am I going to do? I don't have any job skills. And so it's important when you go to shelter, you let them know all of those things. Absolutely. You know, that's what they're there for. They're there to help you safety plan. They're there to help you, to provide you those resources if you got to start from square one. Right. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And they're not going to, you know, all they want to do is make sure they connect the dots for you to get whatever help. So like, no, they're there to be able to make the load lighter, not to make it heavier, which is what it may have felt like when you went to the wrong place or seeked assistance in the wrong area. So we definitely want you to know that. And I'm assuming that was, like you said, definitely some of the inspiration, obviously, behind like the work that you did to even make Mariposa, you know, and all those, you know, things you do now. And so like, where do you see yourself taking, you know, that? Like, so what kind of services did you provide in the past, and are you hoping to provide in the future?
So in the past, I provided, I would accompany survivors if they were going to get protection orders and things like that. I would help them walk through that process and what it looks like for them. It can be challenging. Oh yeah. Going in for an ex parte is one thing where you're by yourself. Yep. But going in a couple weeks later where you have to face the abuser as if you were an attorney acting as your own attorney, and you have to know all of the law. You have to be able to defend yourself in that way in that courtroom. Yep. And so that's difficult. So me helping these individuals and linking them to the appropriate services like legal aid and things like that, where they don't have to be alone in that courtroom and they're not by themselves, and maybe they don't know anything about the law. Most of us don't. We're not attorneys, you know.
I ain't got it like that.
You know, and so just helping them get the right services in place, especially trying to get through that legal process.
Yep.
Which is extremely difficult.
Yep.
You know, that was part of the things I did in the past. And I would also help with relocation assistance and help with applications and applying for that, for funding to be able to move. If you're in a situation, there is, I'm not sure if there's currently funding. It fluctuates depending on the need.
Yep.
Or maybe there might be too many people and then they're inundated and they run out of funds quickly, or, you know, just based on that. There is possible funding out there for relocation assistance.
Right.
And then you can go through the domestic violence center and you can ask for that. You can say, I don't want to stay in shelter. What I want to do is move to a different state, or even I want to move to another county.
Yep.
And there is relocation assistance under, I believe it's VAWA, that I used in the past. So it's the Violence Against Women's Act. And then there's victims of crime funding, VOCA funding out there. Usually that's a little more involved when it comes to victims of crime funding. I believe some other events have to have occurred that are very, serious in that way in order for you to receive that type of funding.
Yep.
But you have VAWA funding that is out there. It may be limited, but it's always something you can ask for.
Yep.
If you don't want to stay in shelter, and maybe you have some resources, but you need some assistance
to
get to another place that's safe, you can always ask for that piece, the relocation assistance.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Very
there is
good.
funding out there. So you can always ask, if they say no, okay, they'll go on to the next step, because they're not going to leave you on your own with no ability to move on and try to move forward through the situation.
Right. And so that's why it's helpful that you seek that when you're ready to actually leave,
Yes.
which we know is also takes time, and so some people also prematurely, may think that they're ready, and unfortunately realize that they're not, and so or they do get overwhelmed by the prospect of having to do all this and seek all that out, that they do go back, honestly, for the familiarity, or because of the fear, and so for many reasons, the fear of the new start or the fear of leaving this person behind. So either one. And so we get that that's not an easy decision to make. And so when you finally do arrive there, that's why there's an average of 7 times for a reason. It takes some people way longer, and it's, others a different amount. But when you do get it, we definitely applaud you for it. And we want you to know that there are people that will help you at whatever stage and however you want it to look. And so I do love knowing that. Yeah, agreed. Because you are right. So we mentioned the shelter, which is the extreme, but and not even the extreme. It's just a great option, emergency option, right? Should you be in that situation, but there are others. And so if you find yourself in a position where that's what it is that I know I want to leave.
Right.
I just don't know how I'm gonna start. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got me? What do I, how do I start this thing? When I haven't had access to anything else, there are options available to you.
There really is. There are individuals out there who are going to assist you, and walk you through the process. So you're not going to be by yourself. You're not going to be, you're not going to get a form plopped down in front of you and you have no idea how to answer these questions.
Right. Good luck.
Yeah. Right. Oh, here you go,
Right.
So there are people out there to assist you. Yes. Just trusting your advocate is very important.
Yep.
It's they're versed on all of the types of protection orders. They're versed on how to get you funding, how to acquire legal counsel.
Yep.
All of these things. So you don't have to, because as an advocate, I don't want you to have to worry about this stuff.
No.
You're already going through one of the most traumatic times in your life.
Right.
And that's where that support piece is supposed to come through for you.
Absolutely.
For your advocate.
Right.
So,
and you deserve it.
You do.
You definitely deserve that. And being able to know that, and that, you don't have to walk that path by yourself, and you can do it with people that are trained in this, and want to do this, and that are passionate about it. And so speaking of that, where do you see the world of mariposa as well as all domestic violence awareness? What's on the horizon for the future? What y'all doing?
So right now, I'm in the process of building the board.
Okay.
And then, so that'll be 2024. We're going to be ready to launch Mariposa Project. We'll have our Facebook page up, and I'll have a website created.
Let's go.
So stay tuned, because we're going to be boots to the ground.
Right.
Just really providing some of that grassroots advocacy, where we're going to just be able to go with you, accompany you. You can, I can transport you places. I can go with you. That was a piece that I wasn't able to do when I worked. I was able to do it when individuals lived in shelter. I was able to transport them.
Right.
But when I worked in the other project, I wasn't able to do that and so that piece is hard. So now I'm just going to cut that completely out, because I'm independent. So I want to do what I can. I know it's a
Right.
dangerous, I just want everybody to be mindful that this is a very dangerous field to be in.
Yeah, and not an easy one either.
Not easy. You know, I've had situations where I've had gang members follow me. I've had situations where I'm going into abandoned buildings looking for my clients.
Oh.
And I'm not saying you should do that, okay?
Right.
Be careful.
Absolutely.
And put your safety in place as well, because you can't help nobody if you're not present on this in this plane. You know what I mean? So you have to be very careful. I probably put myself in situations in the past where I shouldn't have.
Right.
Just because that's just the type of advocacy that I, provide.
Right.
But I'm not saying that that's for everyone.
Nope.
You have to put your safety as well up there, especially if you have a family. So I think I'm more mindful of that now. See, I have to practice mindfulness too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I have a family as well. And you can't help anybody if you're not here.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that part. But then I appreciate that you mentioned that, because then there's a spectrum there too, right? Is that like there's one end of being in abusive situations and not knowing how to properly identify it or get out of it. But then there's a flip side where you want to save everybody, you know what I'm saying? And we know a lot of people fall victim to that too, and us included, because you care so much that but it's coming at a cost, to yourself. And so now your own safety is being compromised but it wasn't for the wrong reason. I mean, obviously you wanted to help, but it is something to consider, and agree that this is not an easy field. And of course, it's never an easy topic. That's why I signed up, y'all. Santana Says got started because I was like, boop, want to talk about the stuff that not everybody's talking about. And I want to make it more accessible to people. I want it to come, from a homey place, and all that. But we going to talk about that. But we are also talking about a field that is very difficult to navigate and to work in. And so I'm glad you're doing it now from an independent lens, because I'm sure the burnout can be real otherwise.
It certainly is. It certainly is. I recall when I originally left working at the center and shelter, and I recall feeling extreme burnout during that time as well.
Right.
And you do experience that secondary type of trauma. You do experience that where you're taking on all of this pain and all of, and I remember talking to you before about one client in particular that it just really affected me, I should say.
Yeah.
Where she was pregnant, and her partner at the time I don't want to say partner, her abuser, had poured gasoline all over her, and she was pregnant. And her 11-year-old daughter hit him with the base over the head and saved her mom before he was able to light that match or that lighter, whatever he had in his hand, to ignite.
Yeah.
And that just really affected me deeply.
Right.
I saw this little girl and how that must have, not only the mother, of course, because she was the one, she was experiencing this extreme abuse, but also I looked through the eyes of that child as well, know? And I'm like, wow, I can only imagine, what this child has experienced before even this situation.
Right.
But how this is going to affect her in moving into her adult life. Because that particular client at the time refused counseling. I didn't mention this before. She did not. She refused for her and her children to receive counseling, which is her right. Fair enough.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But I like to stress. That's why I stress the importance of receiving or talking to a therapist.
Yeah,
it's so important. The effects of that type of trauma are real.
Yeah. And to really properly process something, it's just helpful to have a platform to do that in, and with different tools and with different methods, with somebody that can help you do it, because a lot of it is just helping you get to know yourself better. So, I mean, you have the answers, but it's just you're using it with someone that can help you to discover that more, and give you that chance. And I agree. I definitely think that kind of case would definitely do a lot to me as well. It's a lot hearing it, so I can only imagine, you know what I mean? Because you met them. And so these incredible people, but wow, I didn't know that they had refused counseling after, because you would think that that's not the number one. If anybody need counseling, it will be them. But it's something we reject, right? Because we're nah. And there's a lot of shame again that goes into that. There's just, and having the fear of having to admit that and make that a real thing. But it's it's for all those reasons and more that's why we bring it up, especially for cases like that. That's the main reason behind it. So, wow.
This client had an extreme fear of, she had a lot of shame attached to it.
Yeah.
And And basically, I think her reasoning behind it, from what I gathered, was that was the only thing she was able to control in her life, was how she raised her children from that point forward.
Yeah.
So she didn't want them to feel like they had to keep talking about that situation. She thought the opposite. You know?
Okay.
She didn't think it would be helpful. So there's that other spectrum as well, where like, I don't want to keep talking about it.
Yeah, man. I've heard that many times.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
That's why we got to.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's as much as I can understand that, like, or I could see that, right? You know, and not necessarily understand it, right? And not that I need to, because of course that was her decision that she wanted to make and that she had every right to make. It is hard to think about the kids who, like, what if they wanted to? Or like, you know, why don't we always afford them those opportunities to do it? And so like by, you know, doing something which we think is right, you know, but like sometimes we can get it wrong because we're like losing, you know, and missing an opportunity that really could help them as well.
Help them
Thinking that it was a better thing. Yeah.
And a lot of times and it's important as well, like, I can't stress enough, like, just educating yourself on things, you know?
Right.
So I tried to, like, give her information on what it would look like if her children were involved in therapy and things like that. So just so she had it.
Yep.
So that way she can make an informed decision.
Yep, on her own.
In the future, on her own.
Yeah,
You know,
at least
when
let
she
me
was
tell
ready.
you. Yep.
Right, at least let me tell you. And
Right.
then with that information, you do what you like, because I respect you. Because for so long you felt like no one respected you.
Right.
And you weren't respected.
Yeah, that's true.
And you didn't and you weren't seen. You didn't feel seen or heard.
Right.
You know.
And you didn't have control.
Right. And you didn't have control. So I can understand why you would cling to that piece that you can control in your life.
Absolutely.
Which is, you know, how you raise your children from here on out.
That's
that's all you can do. If all you can do is give somebody a little piece of paper and say, you know what I mean, here's the resource.
Right. You got it,
Even
though.
if they
it's
toss it down the street.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
But
they
she
might
tried.
fling it. It's happened to me before. People are, I don't need this. They right in my face. And I go,
oh,
you out for that, but okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because we're human. But, you know, but I respect it. I respect them. You know? If that's what you want, okay. But at least I did my due diligence as a person that's here to support you.
Yep.
That I provided you that. And if you don't want it, that's okay. I'll give it to you again when you do.
Yeah.
You know? If you do.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? And we can sleep better at night knowing we did. We tried. You know what I'm saying? And we did that part.
Right, absolutely.
Man, so if others want knowing that, because that's some noble causes, and I already know I plan on signing up to help more with stuff in the future. So you know what I'm saying? You have to put me on the list.
We're collaborating.
Yeah, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? This is the start of Stings because we will not. There's no way this is gonna be our last time talking about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, why not? Let's join forces and make sure we can help as many people. If there are others listening that also wanna, you know, join forces, help, learn more, whatever, how can they reach out to you?
Yes, they can actually call me at 216-273-2668 because I always like to call myself an internal advocate.
Hey,
you know?
Let's go.
Like, if you need some, text me.
Right.
If I'm in that moment and I have something going on, but believe me, I'll get back to you.
Yes, go.
I'll get back to you. Like, you know, it doesn't take anything in this life if you're hurting for me to send you a link to some help.
Yeah.
And that's important to me. You know, I don't want anyone to feel like they're by themselves and they're facing this monster alone.
Yeah.
Because it's a monster.
It is.
It's exactly what it is.
Right.
You know, people think monsters live under the bed and in the dark. I see a lot of them walking during the day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. They out
that's
here.
That's just the truth. They're out here.
Right.
And they're dressed up in 3-piece suits. Or they're wearing, you know, a sweatsuit or something. Like, goes both ways, you know?
Exactly.
So, or they're wearing dresses and apron. Who knows? Whatever it may be. I just want to make sure I cover all my bases here. But, it doesn't always... you don't always see it at first, but there are a lot of people going through things that we don't know about.
That part. And I also appreciate your number, but also you said the hotline was 391.
Yes, 391-HELP. Yep. That is more important than any other number, but besides 911, of course. If you're in a dangerous situation, call 911.
Right.
But if you need to just receive some advocacy and some support, then you can call the 24-hour hotline. But I always suggest calling 911 if you can. If you're like in a dire situation, of course you need to call the authorities first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we have to stress that. First and foremost. But definitely 391-HELP. And, you know, there's a domestic violence center here in Cleveland. Journey Center for Healing.
Absolutely.
So you can reach the advocates there. I still have many of my friends that work there that are amazing. They've been there for so long.
Right.
they're ready to help you. Believe me when I tell you this, they are.
Yep. And now you know a personal one too, because I do know that sometimes they might want that personal touch and maybe speak to somebody that they've heard from, that they feel that they can connect to. So please be encouraged to reach out that way also. You know, but as always, we appreciate you because for engaging us in this kind of conversation, you know what I'm saying? Let us be able to bring that awareness in that way and, you know, and grow it, because that's all we want to do. And, you know, if we can prevent anything, you know, any of those things from happening, then our purpose has been served.
Absolutely.
And so thank y'all. And thank you,
Thank
for
you.
coming on.
Thank you.
Let's go.
I appreciate you so much. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate just us getting together and raising awareness for something that really just needs it at this point, you know, period.
Amen. I'm with you. So yeah, so thank y'all and tune in again, because we're gonna bring y'all some more great conversations, and you know, it's a new year. Y'all gonna hear about that in a minute. But yeah, stay tuned.